Do you ever feel like no matter how hard you try, you either feel burnt out, unmotivated, or your energy is just all over the place? What if I told you the reason is not you? It's your hormones. For the past 3 years, I've been planning my entire life and business around my cycle. And let me tell you, it has changed everything for me. Back then, I didn't even realize, but I was going through a huge hormonal imbalance. I was suffering from painful periods, low energy, and constant burnout. Today, I don't even notice when my period arrives because I have no more pain, my energy is stable, I feel more creative than ever, and I never fall into burnout because I know my body and I know when I need to get some rest. And I also know when I can push harder because I have more energy. So if you've ever felt guilty for not being productive 24/7, you have painful periods and low energy, or you simply want to learn about cycle thinking to make your life better, this video is for you. But first, if you don't know me, hi, I'm Lou. I'm a full-time content creator, and on this channel, I share tips about content creation, mindset, and how to become the best version of yourself, living the life you always wanted thanks to content creation. Just a quick side note before we get started. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a professional, I'm just sharing from my personal experience because cycle thinking truly changed my life. And I believe it can change so many other women's lives. So everything I'm sharing today is purely based on what I've been experiencing in the past years. And yeah, I hope it's going to be helpful to you. So let's dive into cycle thinking, what exactly it is and how I plan my entire business around it. First of all, if you don't know what cycle thinking is, it's simply the process of working with your menstrual cycle instead of against it. Hormones are always shifting, they're never the same, and that affects our energy levels, mood, creativity, and even our motivation. Instead of expecting ourselves to be at 100% every day, which is unrealistic, cycle thinking allows you to adapt your tasks, your workouts, and your social life to the natural rhythm of your body. Let me explain a little bit more about our menstrual cycles as women. Our cycles are around 28 days and they're composed of 4 phases that each have their own needs and strengths. First, we have the menstrual cycle. That's around day 1 to day 7. So this is when you're bleeding and your energy is going to be at its lowest. This is a time for rest, reflection, and slowing down. Then we have the follicular phase, which is around day 8 to 13. Energy is starting to rise because your estrogen levels are going up again. It's a really good time for brainstorming, planning ahead, and starting new projects. Ovulation phase is around day 14 to 17. That's when you're at your peak. Energy, creativity, confidence, communication, everything is going well. Lastly, we have the luteal phase, which is around day 18 to 28. Your energy gradually starts to decrease. You're entering your PMS phase, so it's normal to feel more moody and just overall unmotivated. I think it's really important to know exactly what day of your cycle you're in. And for that, I use an app to track. The one I use is called Clue, but I know there is so many others that are great. In this video, I'm focusing on how I plan my business according to my cycle, but if you're interested in this topic, let me know in the comments and I will create more videos also sharing how I plan my nutrition, my workouts, and overall my life around my cycle. Before I dive in my schedule and how I plan my months, I just want to say that I'm aware that I'm able to cycle sync with my business because I own my business and because I don't have a 9 to 5. But if you're watching this, you're probably working towards building a life of freedom and just being able to make your own schedule. I just want to say that if you do have a 9 to 5 right now, you can still do it. I think it's just something that you can always do. It's easier if you have your own business, but if you have a 9 to 5, maybe you can adapt some tasks. You can also give yourself more rest when you come home from work and over the weekend. So there's always a way to do things. Okay, so let's dive in. For the first phase, which is the menstrual phase, from day 1 to 7, I always give myself some rest. It doesn't matter if my first day of period is over the weekend or on a weekday, I always give myself some time to rest. When I'm past the first 2 days, which are the ones where I feel the lowest on energy, I do work, but I choose tasks that are less energy consuming, like for example, editing from the couch or some admin stuff, but things that are not going to require me to use too much of my energy. In my follicular phase, that's from day 8 to 13, I already start feeling better. I have more energy. Usually in that phase, I have so many creative ideas. So I take time to brainstorm, to script videos, to come up with new ideas, new projects. I pitch to a lot of brands. I learn new skills, editing tricks, filming angles. I plan and I draft so many social media posts. So then when I'm ovulating and I feel more like creating, I don't need to do admin work. In my ovulation phase, so from day 14 to 17, that's when I have the most energy, and I always use it to batch create content. At this time of my cycle, everything gets easier. I'm better at communicating, so I also try to schedule more meetings, more events. I just really try to take advantage of this moment of my cycle where everything flows, and it's just what would take me, for example, 3 hours when I'm in my follicular phase takes me half an hour when I'm ovulating. Finally, we have the luteal phase, so around from days 18 to 28. I usually start slowing down from the second half of my luteal phase because after ovulation, I still have energy. But when it comes to the days before my period, that's when I really, really try to slow down again, go inwards, and give myself some rest because, let's be honest, when we probably are PMSing, there is a lot of tasks that I don't feel like doing, and I know that if I force it, I'm not gonna do it well, and it's gonna take me so long. So I really try to listen to my body, and I focus on tasks that excite me but that don't take too much energy from me. Usually in this phase, I focus on admin tasks. I draft and I plan a lot of social media posts, brainstorm content ideas. I do editing, scripting, and I go more on long walks to try to reconnect with myself after this crazy ovulation phase that I have every month. Because I work like this, I don't feel guilty anymore for not being at my 100% every day and for taking a rest when I need to. Instead, I know that I'm still moving forward, but in a way that feels more sustainable and natural. I know that when I'm resting, when I'm on my period, maybe my business is on pause, but it's also doing so good to my business because that means that I will have so much more energy in my ovulation phase. It happened in the past that I was not listening to my body some years ago, and I would still be really active on my menstrual cycle when I was bleeding, and that didn't help. First of all, I was having really big cramps. I was having so much pain. And also, I wasn't doing things well. Things were taking me way longer because I was not focused, because I was just doing things because if I wouldn't, I would feel guilty. And that's not a good way to do things. Cycle syncing truly has changed everything for me as a person, but also for my business. I feel like my content is so much better because I always create when I'm in this high flow state. I have way more creative ideas that come to me. Nothing feels forced. I only work from a place of excitement. And I really, really believe that that changed everything for my business. And it helps so much in ways that I could never even imagine in the past. If you take anything from this video, I hope it's this. You don't have to work 24/7 to be successful. You're allowed to rest. You're allowed to move with your cycle. You're allowed to build a life and a business that honors your body without draining it. We don't need to copy men in order to be successful. The thing that we forget is that we have our own superpowers as women, and it would be such a shame to not use them. So that's it for today's video. That's pretty much how I use cycle syncing as a content creator. It has truly transformed my energy, my creativity, and the way I run my business. So if you've ever struggled with burnout, or you felt like you're forcing yourself to work even when your body is saying no, I highly recommend you try this out. If this video was helpful, as always, give it a thumbs up, make sure to subscribe, and let me know in the comments if you've ever tried cycle syncing or if you're curious to start. I would love to hear your experience. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.